This is something kind of cool that I came across when I was first waking up. I really like this thing, man. Like, I don't know who made it. I don't know if this is out of a book. I don't really know where this comes from. I do really like thinking about development in this way. You know, when I came across the 7 chakras and started to realize that they had this sort of special relationship in the chart, I got super interested in just exploring, like, whether or not this idea made sense to me. And I think this was part of that, of realizing, like, yeah, you know, the chakras really do describe something fundamental about existence. If you look at the way this is laid out, it's really, you know, we've got 7 chakras across the top and 7 across the side here, like this graph. And the idea is that every 7 years, you're entering into a new phase of development, you know. So it's like you have to go through each year. Each year is one of the chakras. And obviously, you know, the first one here says a lot. It's like, well, you're just surviving. And all of that's being taken care of. I don't know, you know, do babies have thoughts? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do. Can people think without language? Clearly, there are people who claim they have no inner dialogue, that they think more in pictures. Thinking in pictures is still thinking. You know, when this baby is going from 1 to 2, awakening of feelings. So you've gone from the root, which is really just the physical. And I try to kind of, you know, fear, it says fear up top here where the root is. I'm not thinking about it in those terms. I'm thinking about it as just physical existence, just the raw biological reality, you know. Ignore this fear thing up here. It's just an interesting sort of thought experiment of, like, yeah, the first year of your life, you're really just about the body. You're just surviving. They laugh, they cry. They laugh, they cry. I like this, I don't like this. It's like the most basic thing. Then we get into year 3. And 2 to 3 really is like a big deal. That's a big change. And, you know, here they have active discovery of the world, asking, what's that? You know, language is really taking over, and autonomy. And this is like when you're chasing around that little kid, that toddler who's getting into everything. And then 4, you know, is kind of like a stabilization period. You should be walking as if you know how, you know, like you know how to walk, you know how to talk. And then 4 to 5 really is, yeah, it's like the introduction of philosophy. It's like you're trying to understand things. You've gone from kind of just being blissfully following your desires. You know, there's not a lot of questions. It's more just like experiencing this harmonious period until you start to have questions. And then 4 to 5 really is like when you start with that phase of childhood where, you know, there's all these questions. It's like, and, you know, and then you get into wisdom. You know, there's an attempt to understand things, and then there's the consequences of what you've understood. And I do see, like, the third eye and the throat is sort of, it's hard to study one of them in isolation, in the similar way that it's hard to study your physical body and its feelings by isolating them. The feelings that we have, whether they're sensations or emotions in the sense of these other types of feelings in the body, the feelings really are the feminine within the masculine. And then, you know, the way the mind works, it's like the mind is the masculine within the feminine. You know, so the throat would be the feminine. It's like a realm of ideas, concepts, languages. And the mind is like an object within it. You know, when you're thinking about this, 7, you know, if you're around enough kids, you sort of realize, like, yes, 7 is kind of this magical moment in their development when everything really has come together. And having raised 2 kids now to around that age, like, I feel like 7 is kind of like, they're certainly not adults, right? But but everything's there. Their personalities are sort of fully blossomed into who they are. I really believe that. As young as 7, I think we have sort of solidified to some degree in terms of like whatever our genetics are expressing and however the environment is going to modulate those genetics. It sort of all sets up around 7 years old. And it's interesting here. It's like craving for the mysterious and the unknown. And like, yeah, like that's exactly the age when my kids started to do that. Everything sort of come together. And then, at 8, that's like a graduation, I think, that's happening. You're going through the root chakra for the second time, right? So you're going through the physical realm, your body, for the second time. But this time, you're coming at the body from the perspective of not the body. So this is sort of like these harmonics. But the second time around, you're coming at your body through its emotions. And so, this is misunderstanding of new desires, awakening of hormones. Sure. But I do think it's just an interesting way to try to look at development. And again, this is not the Bible. This is not some truth, I think, necessarily. But it's interesting. And, I do kind of like how we have these harmonics where, you're going through each chakra, and then you're going through each chakra again from the perspective of another. And then when your feelings meet your feelings here, like, so this is your second trip through your emotions, but using your emotions. So it's sort of like the realization of your emotional self in a way. And this is why I think they put here, feelings are getting out of control. And that's true, man. Like 9 years old, big emotions. And again, these things aren't necessarily speaking to me. Some of these things are kind of vague too. It's like, friendship in different forms for where the feelings, the sacral vibes are coming into harmony with this second year or this second trip around the chakra wheel, let's say. 7 times 7 is 49. So I guess the idea here is that if you're not an adult, when I say an adult, I mean, you've mastered something, and, you can become the master to an apprentice and fully bring them into that discipline. And if you're living right, like you need to become an expert at living. That doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Even experts make mistakes. But at 49, you've been around the chakra wheel 7 times, and you've been through each combination of these different aspects. I don't know, man. I put this in the Discord server, and if you guys want to take a look at this, I think it is kind of interesting. It's just a kind of a cool way to look at development.